What's up, YouTube? Coming at you today with a video on a knife that I've been carrying for a few weeks now, so I'm going to call it definitely an overview, not a review, which I like to carry and use my knives for quite some time before I do the full review. I'll have the full review on the Bark River Aurora coming soon. I've tested it long enough, but anyway, this video is about this knife, and then at the end of the video I'm going to do a channel update and let you guys know where I've been and why I haven't done a video for a couple of weeks. So anyway, to the point of the video, this Emerson Commander is what you're looking at. This is my fourth Emerson designed knife and only my second Emerson knife, and it is a production Emerson. There are custom Emersons as well. There are a lot of videos out there and a lot of channels out there that just have a lot of knowledge, a wealth of information on the Emersons. And if you're interested, I would recommend definitely checking out Carter over at Juju1313, and he's just got videos on the history and everything else, and just tons of great info out there if you're interested in Emersons. And Emerson gave us a lot of what we're familiar with and what people would call a tactical folder. And he didn't necessarily invent all the things, but he sort of popularized you know, the pocket clip, the liner lock, the thumb stud, the one-hand opening and closing. A lot of the things that are so common now on our pocket knives were popularized back in the day by the CQ-C7, which takes me to the first two Emerson knives I had were both Benchmade CQ-C7s. And at that point you could buy a custom, or if you couldn't afford that, you could buy a Benchmade collaboration, and I had two of those. And then Emerson in the early 90s started making knives, production his own, and I got a 99 Commander, which I have a spear point Commander, but they had a Tonto Commander that actually was issued to NASA, and he has a long history with the Navy SEALs as well. So a lot of cool stuff about Emerson knives, and I wouldn't plug Nut and Fancy, but he has a great interview with Ernest Emerson, the owner and designer, that you can go watch, and it's just full of really great information about his philosophy and why he makes knives the way he does, and all that type of stuff. But anyway, to this knife, it's a large knife, and I don't have anything for size comparison other than a lighter here for you, but it is a large knife, and Emerson's, all that I've owned, have just excellent ergonomics, and they all have a very similar construction, unless you go into the customs, which they all have a similar construction as well. But 154 cm is the steel that Emerson uses, and it's not a super steel anymore, but in the 90s it was the new deal. And I remember that most of the nice knife companies were using ATS 34, which was a Japanese copy of Cruciable's 154 cm. And the 154 cm made by Cruciable was not available in pieces, you know, small enough that knife makers could use them. No bar stock. So Emerson worked out a deal with Cruciable and said, hey, if you guys will, you know, make this steel here again, they've cloned your steel, I won't have to buy ATS 34 steel, and I'll use yours. So he has stuck with 154 cm ever since then, and I do not have any problem with that. It has great edge holding abilities, great toughness, and yeah, he could step up to S30V or, you know, some other super steel, but I am perfectly happy with all the performance I've ever had with 154 cm. And also in common on almost all Emerson knives is G10 and titanium liners. Some have a steel liner on the one side, and some have two different size liners, and you can go see Juju1313's videos to find out when all those differences happen and whatnot. But new for 2012, they've changed a couple things, and my knife does have those updates. My liners are both the same thickness, and I have tested both with a magnet, and they are both titanium. This one is not steel, which has been the case for I guess a few years now. My 99 Spec War is also dual titanium liners. This also has the different screw head size here for your flathead, so that more screwdrivers and tools will fit that. A small Swiss Army knife will fit that, for example. And then the other screws on the knife are small Phillips head. So Emerson uses Phillips and flatheads for a reason. And, you know, people see that and they're like, well, Torx are better, you know, they won't strip as easily, and there are arguments out there for that. But you can more commonly and more easily find Phillips and flathead screwdrivers to take apart and maintenance a knife like this. And that does not void your warranty on Emerson's like it does so many knives. The jimping is extremely effective, along with this blade catch here that's called the wave. And I'll show you how that deploys the blade from your pocket here in a minute, which most of you are probably familiar with. And then it has a thumb stud on top, which gives you ambidextrous performance, but it's not dual thumb studs. Again, that's pretty unique to most Emersons, to all Emersons. And really nice design on the back here. It's sort of shaped to be a Kubotan. When it's in your hand in a full grip, you know, it's still sticking out, so that you could use that for self-defense, as well as with the knife closed. You know, great big fill up your hand weapon there as well. Mine is not centered perfectly, and some of the Emersons are not. And I have tweaked it and tried all the little tricks out there for mine, but it's fine. It's not centered so bad that it rubs the liner, which can be definitely a bad thing. But Emersons, when you get them, they need a little breaking in, and one of the problems is the G10 feels like coarse 60 grit sandpaper almost, maybe 120. And at first you're like, wow, that is really, really aggressive G10. But after a few days of carry, 3 or 4 days in your pocket, and just playing with it, flipping it and everything else, the G10 really smooths out. It's some of the best traction G10 that you'll find, though. And also they can be a little tough and tight when you get them. And I've deployed and opened this one and closed it, you know, just a billion times since I've had it, and it's definitely getting a lot better. And I also took it apart all the way, cleaned it, lubed it with grease, and that can help you as well. But it's got a ceramic Cerakote style blade coating, which is different from my previous Emersons and Benchmades having the Teflon. And anyway, like I said, this is just sort of going to be an overview. Haven't used the knife a lot, although I've played with it a lot and carried it. And I would like to show you guys the wave and how that works as well. But lots of cool history behind Emerson knives in general, as well as this knife, the Commander. And guys, he has worked directly with Navy SEALs, which you hear that about a lot of knives, but it's just not true. Emerson is a martial arts trainer, and he absolutely works hand in hand with SEAL teams, and always has. And the first place I heard about Ernest Emerson was in a Rogue Warrior series of books by Dick Marchenko, of which the Emerson knives he carries in 7 or 8 of the books. And these books are written by a former Navy SEAL along with a author, John Wiseman. And anyway, you can check those out for yourself and see some absolutely cool stuff. But this knife was designed as a backup to the backup to the backup for SEAL teams. If their fixed blade was down, they would have something else. So this knife was requested by the SEAL teams to have some sort of a defensive blade catch. And if you had the training, I guess you could possibly catch a blade there and save your knuckles, thumb, and hand. But anyway, what it worked out to be was, I'll go demonstrate this, is a great deployment feature. So Emerson Knives, guys, he's on the, it's an interesting story. Like I said, go watch the Nut and Fancy interview, and you'll get the story from Emerson himself. But he put this on there as the blade catch, and he sent it off one of the prototypes with some SEALs, and he was playing with his own prototype in his office, and literally he got a phone call as he was realizing the same thing. The blade with the pocket clip in the position it is tip up, and it deploys the knife out of your pocket so that it's the fastest opening folding knife available, period. It's faster than an automatic because as soon as you have it out of your pocket, it's open, as you see there. Now, I don't have any editing features that I can give you guys, but it's fast. It's one of those things where you kind of pull back this way as you open, and the knife is out. It's already out in your hand, and you know, it's a great feature. It's nice, but you have to be aware that you have that. That'll eat up a car seat if you try to get it out. So what you have to do if you don't want to deploy the wave is you kind of come straight up with it, and you know, that usually works, sometimes not. So as I said, it's one of those things you definitely have to get used to and watch. And these pants are pretty catchy, but there we are again. I pulled it straight out, attempting not to wave, and I've waved it. So it's one of those things you have to watch, but it's very cool and very fast. And Ernest Emerson does design his knives for fighting and self-defense, and most knives are made as tools to use for cutting. He does think a lot about the tactical side of things, which I'm not a big tactical knife guy, but I love Emerson's. I always have. I've loved the history. The first nice knife I owned was an Emerson Benchmade CQC7, so that's why I love them, and that turned me on to nice knives, and I've been hooked ever since. That was, gosh, 18 years ago, guys and gals. But hope you enjoyed the overview. I am not the expert. Like I said, there's just so much info out there and great info coming around on you. So many great channels. I mean, you know, I wouldn't want to attempt to name them all because I'd definitely forget some people. But, you know, like I said, Juju1313 Carter over there has just great videos and a wealth of knowledge on the Emersons, as well as Corey. There's 4 or 5 that I've watched a lot of videos on. Some of these guys collect nothing but custom Emersons, and they have more Commanders than I have knives. Just Commanders. Different Commanders, production, custom, different colored scales, you know, different blade options, everything you can think of they've got. But I have the one, and I absolutely love it. And you guys have seen my Spec War, and being a 99, it's really old now. And like I said, it has never failed me. The liner is all the way over, but it still functions perfectly. It's a little loose when you let go of it. I think it could stand to be just carbonized, or a larger stop pin would be great, something like that. But this video is getting long, guys. I have to upload it. So where have I been? We are moving, and that's a short story. We're moving. So I don't know if we're going to rent or buy. We're going to try to buy. Might not be able to. So I've just been preoccupied with packing up the house, and we have to be out by January 9. We also have Christmas going